The great space station called the Omniplex hung in the silent blackness between stars. It was a place of meeting for many different kinds of people from across the galaxy. Its long, twisting halls were always full of noise and movement. Strange shapes and sounds filled the air. It was a place of business and of talk. In one of the station's green and growing places, a man named Jin was working. He was a human, a person from Earth. His job was to study plants, even plants from other worlds. He was a quiet man who liked the peace of the gardens. His hands, which were careful and strong, moved through the leaves of a small tree from his home. The tree was an oak. He checked its leaves for color and its soil for water. He was happy here, away from the noise and the crowds. Jin was not alone in the universe. His heart belonged to his wife, Mina. While Jin worked with plants, Mina worked with words. She was a translator and a talker for the humans. Her job was to help different species understand each other. She was very good at it. She could find the right word in any language. She could understand feelings hidden in a strange sentence. Today, she was in one of the station's most important rooms. It was a place for big decisions. In that room, the air was cold and tense. Mina stood with other humans from Earth. Across from them was a group called the Cathar. The Cathar were a species that looked like large walking reptiles. Their skin was covered in hard gray scales. Their eyes were yellow and did not blink. They were a people who respected only one thing: strength. If you were strong, you were important. If you were weak, you were nothing. The leader of the Cathar was named Commander Val. He was bigger than the others. His voice was a low hiss. He was talking to the head of the station, a wise being named Ambassador Lauren. "Your words are weak," Val said to Lauren, his sharp teeth showing. "You talk and talk. This agreement you want gives us nothing. We are the Cathar. We take what we deserve." Ambassador Lauren was calm. "This is not about taking, Commander Val. This is about trading. We all give something. We all get something. That is how we build peace." Mina stepped forward. She spoke in the Cathar language, her voice clear and respectful. "Commander, the agreement gives your people access to new star systems for your ships. In return, you agree to let other ships pass safely through your space. It is a fair trade. Your strength grows, but so does the safety for all." Val turned his yellow eyes to her. He did not like her words. He saw the human way of talking as a trick. To him, her calm voice was a sign of fear. Her smart words were a weapon of the weak. "Do not speak to me of safety, little human," he hissed. "Safety is for prey. You are all prey. You hide behind your pretty words because you have no power." Mina did not look away. She stood straight. "Power has many forms, Commander. A strong arm is one. A strong alliance is another. The second can be more lasting than the first." This made Val angry. A human, a soft and weak creature, was telling him about power. She was challenging him in front of the others. In his culture, a challenge must be answered. If a weaker person challenges a stronger one, the stronger one must show their place. He had to show everyone that this human was nothing. He took a step forward. His large, scaled hand moved through the air. It was not a fist. It was an open-handed slap, meant not to fight but to shame. The sound was sharp and ugly in the quiet room. The force of it threw Mina to the floor. A small line of red blood appeared on her face where his sharp scales had cut her. The room became completely silent. For a moment, the only sound was Mina's quick, pained breath. The other humans froze in shock. The Cathar guards did not move. For them, this was normal. This was how a leader acted, but for everyone else in the room, it was a terrible, unthinkable thing. To hit a talker during a meeting of peace, it was like breaking a sacred rule. Ambassador Lauren was the first to move. His usually calm face was tight with anger. "Commander Val!" His voice rang out. "What have you done?" Val stood over Mina, looking down at her. He felt satisfied. He had shown them. He had shown everyone where the real power was. "I have shown this creature its place," he said. It spoke too much. Now it is quiet. Two station guards, who were not human and not Cathar, hurried forward. They helped Mina to her feet. She was dizzy and her face hurt very much, but her eyes were open. She looked right at Commander Val, and her eyes were not full of fear. They were full of a cold, hard anger. She did not say a word. She did not need to. Lauren pointed a shaking hand at the door. "This meeting is over. You are finished here, Commander. You will leave this station at once. The Cathar Imperium will hear about this." Commander Val made a low sound like a laugh. He did not care. He had won. He turned and walked out of the room, his guards following him. He believed he had proven that humans were fragile. They could be broken with one hit. As the door closed behind him, the room broke into noise. People were talking all at once. The human diplomats rushed to Mina's side. "Are you okay? We need a doctor." "This is an act of war." Mina held up a hand to quiet them. Her face was already starting to swell. "I am all right," she said, her voice a little shaky but firm. "But someone needs to tell Jin." A young aide, a human man who looked very pale, nodded quickly. "I will find him," he said. He turned and almost ran from the room. He knew where Jin would be. Everyone knew Jin liked the garden. The aide ran through the long, bright halls of the station. His heart was beating fast. He was afraid. He was afraid of what the Cathar had done, and he was a little afraid of what Jin might do. Jin was always so quiet. Sometimes quiet people have the most storm inside them. He finally reached the door to the arboretum. He pushed it open and stepped into the warm, humid air. The air smelled of dirt and leaves and flowers. It was a peaceful smell. He saw Jin in the distance, kneeling by his small earth tree, his back to the door. The aide walked closer, his steps slow. "Jin?" he said, his voice soft. Jin turned his head. He had a small, gentle smile on his face. He had been happy in his work. But when he saw the aide's face, the smile faded away. He slowly stood up. "What is it?" Jin asked. His voice was calm. The aide swallowed. He did not know how to say it. It's Mina. There was an incident. In the meeting." Jin's body became very still. "What kind of incident?" "The Cathar commander. He hit her. He struck her in the face. She is hurt. She is in the medical room now." The aide watched Jin's face. He expected to see anger. He expected to see shouting or tears. He saw none of those things. Instead, he saw all the light go out of Jin's eyes. It was like watching a lamp go out in a window, leaving a dark house behind. The gentleman who cared for plants was gone. Someone else was looking out from behind his eyes. Jin looked down at his hands. They were covered in dark soil from the earth tree. He looked at them for a long moment. Then he did something the aide found very strange. He did not run. He did not shout. He turned back to his work table. He picked up a clean cloth. He began to wipe the dirt from his hands. He cleaned under his nails. He did it slowly and carefully, as if he had all the time in the world. When his hands were clean, he placed the cloth back on the table. He lined up his tools neatly, then he turned back to the aide. His face was empty of all feeling. "Take me to her," he said. His voice was quiet, flat, and cold. It was the most frightening sound the aide had ever heard. The aide led Jin through the bright, busy halls of the Omniplex. People of all shapes and sizes moved around them. They talked and laughed. They were going about their normal days. To Jin, it felt like he was walking through a dream. The sounds were muffled. The lights were too bright. The only thing that felt real was the cold, hard feeling in his chest. He did not run. His steps were steady and even. He followed the aide, his hands hanging loosely at his sides. He looked straight ahead. People moved out of his way without knowing why. There was something in his face and his walk that made them step aside. They reached the medical bay. The doors slid open with a quiet hiss. The air smelled clean and sharp like chemicals. It was a place of white walls and soft lights. Mina was sitting on the edge of a medical bed. A doctor, a tall being with 4 arms, was using a small tool to fix the cut on her cheek. The side of her face was swollen and colored with ugly purple and red marks. Her eye was almost swollen shut. She looked small and hurt. When she saw Jin, her good eye met his. She tried to give him a little smile to show she was okay, but it hurt too much. The smile turned into a wince. Jin walked to her. He did not look at the doctor. He did not look at anything else in the room. He only looked at Mina. He stopped in front of her. He was very still. The doctor finished and stepped back. "The cut is sealed. The bone is cracked. She needs rest and quiet." The doctor looked at Jin, waiting for a question, for some kind of reaction. There was none. After a moment, the doctor left them alone. Jin reached out. His hand, which had been so careful with the plants, was now very gentle as he touched her uninjured hand. He lifted it. He bent his head and pressed his lips to her knuckles. He held them there for a long moment. He could feel the small bones under her skin. He could feel the warmth of her life. Mina looked up at him. She saw the emptiness in his eyes. She saw the calm that was not calm but a deep, frozen ocean. She knew this man. She knew his quiet heart. She knew the love he had for growing things. And she knew the other part of him, the part he kept locked away. The part that could focus with a terrible, single-minded purpose. The part that could see a problem and break it down into pieces until he found a way to solve it. He was not a soldier. He was a scientist. But in that moment, she saw that a scientist's mind could be the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. She squeezed his hand.
"Jin," she whispered.
Her voice was rough. "It's okay. I'm okay." He shook his head, just a tiny movement. It was not okay. They both knew it. "Who?" he asked. His voice was low and flat. "Commander Val," she said. "The Cathar leader." Jin nodded slowly. He stored the name away. It was a piece of data, a variable in an equation. "What are you going to do?" she asked. She was not afraid of him. She was afraid for him. She was afraid for what this might turn him into. Jin looked at her bruised face. He looked at the pain in her eye. He did not answer her question. He did not need to. The look in his own eyes was answer enough. He gave her hand one more soft squeeze. Then he let go. He turned and walked out of the medical bay. His walk was the same as before, steady, even, purposeful. He did not go back to the garden. He went to the part of the station where the leaders had their offices. He walked straight to the office of Ambassador Lauren. The ambassador's assistant, a small furry being, tried to stop him. "Sir, the ambassador is very busy." Jin looked at the assistant. He did not say a word. The assistant made a small, frightened sound and moved aside. Jin opened the door and walked in. Ambassador Lauren was sitting at his desk looking at a screen. He looked tired and worried. He looked up, surprised by the sudden entrance. "Jin," he said, "what is this?" "I heard about Mina, a terrible thing. I am so sorry. We have already filed the strongest possible protest. The Cathar delegation is being expelled from the station." Jin stood in front of the large desk. He was still and quiet. "That is not enough," he said. His voice was still that same calm, cold tone. Lauren sighed. He leaned back in his chair. "I understand your anger. Believe me, I do. But what would you have me do? Start a war? We are not the Cathar. We do not solve problems with violence." "I do not want a war," Jin said. "Then what do you want?" Lauren asked, spreading his hands. "What can I do for you?" "I want information," Jin said. Lauren was confused. "Information? What kind of information?" "The Cathar homeworld." "Cathara?" "I want the full planetary survey. The ecological reports. The botany files." Lauren stared at him. This was the last thing he expected. He thought Jin would demand a weapon. He thought he would demand a ship to chase after Commander Val. He wanted plant reports? "Jin," Lauren said gently, as if talking to a sick person. "I know you are a botanist. I know plants are your comfort, but this is not the time for that. You should be with your wife." Jin's eyes did not change. "The information, please." "Why?" Lauren asked, his confusion turning to frustration. "What possible use could you have for that?" Jin was silent for a moment. He was choosing his words carefully. "The Cathar believe they are strong. They believe we are weak because we do not hit back. I will show them a different kind of strength. I will show them why their mistake was so fundamental." Lauren did not understand. But he saw the look in Jin's eyes. It was not the look of a man seeking revenge in a hot, angry way. It was the look of a man who had already decided on a path and would not be turned away. It was a look of cold, hard certainty. Also, Lauren felt a deep shame. A member of his delegation, a diplomat under his protection, had been attacked. He owed this man something. "Very well," Lauren said finally. He typed a command into his desk. "I am giving you temporary access to the Galactic Concordance database. You will find the Cathar planetary surveys under the Xenoecology section." "But Jin..." "Be careful. Do not do anything foolish." Jin gave a small, stiff nod. "Thank you, Ambassador." He turned and left the office. He walked directly to the human sector's data lab. It was a quiet room with many screens. It was empty at this time of day. He sat down at a terminal. He entered the access code Lauren had given him. The screen lit up with the symbol of the Galactic Concordance. He began to type. He searched for the planet Cathara. Files appeared. Images of a harsh, rocky world with a red sky. Reports on its atmosphere, its geology, its weather patterns. He skipped past all of that. He went straight to the biology files. He opened the folder labeled Dominant Flora. He began to read. His eyes moved quickly across the screen. He was not a soldier. He was not a general. He was a problem solver, and Mina's pain was the problem he had to solve. The Cathar's belief in their own superiority was the problem he had to solve. He read about the tough, copper-colored vines that covered much of the Cathar homeworld. The report called them blood vines. They were fast-growing. They were strong. Their roots held the dry soil together. They helped make the air breathable. They were the most important plant on the planet. They were the foundation of the Cathar ecosystem. The Cathar were proud of them. The vines were a symbol of their strength and resilience. They were immune to every disease and pest on their planet. Jin leaned closer to the screen. His face was lit by the blue glow. An immune species in a closed ecosystem. That was always a point of failure. A species that had never faced a true threat from outside often had no defenses against one. He opened another program. He accessed the Terran Genomic Library, the record of every plant and animal from Earth. He began to cross-reference. He was looking for a key that would fit a lock no one even knew existed. He searched for hours. He did not move. He did not drink water. He did not eat food. His whole world was the data on the screen. He was looking for a weakness, not in their ships, not in their weapons, but in the very ground they walked on. He was going to prove that the strongest fortress can be brought down by the smallest key. And then he found it. It was a small note in a study about Terran oak trees. The oak's roots released a certain enzyme into the soil. This enzyme helped the tree gather nutrients. It was harmless to almost every other plant on Earth. But the chemical structure of that enzyme, it was a perfect match for a protein receptor in the cell wall of the Cathar blood vine. Alone, the enzyme would do nothing. But if it was combined with a common nitrogen-fixing bacteria from Earth soil, Jin's fingers flew across the screen. He pulled up a simulation program. He entered the data. He created a model of the blood vine's cellular structure. He introduced the combined enzyme and bacteria. On the screen, the model of the tough vine cell began to break apart. The walls dissolved. The entire structure turned to black sludge in a matter of seconds. Jin sat back in his chair. He looked at the result. There was no smile on his face. There was no shout of victory. There was only a cold, quiet satisfaction. He had found the key. He now had to make it, and then he had to show it to them. He had to make them understand the cost of their error. The quiet of the data lab was absolute. Jin sat before the glowing screen, the simulation of destruction playing over and over again. The vine turned to black sludge again and again. It was not a victory. It was a fact. A solution to a problem. The problem was the Cathar's belief in their own untouchable strength. He had just found a way to prove them wrong. He stood up. His body was stiff from sitting for so long. He felt no hunger, no thirst. There was only the next step. He needed a laboratory, a place where he could work with biological materials. He left the data lab and walked through the station's corridors. His destination was the Xenobotany Research Wing. This was where he did his real work, studying how plants from different worlds could live together. It was a place of life and growth. Today he would use it for a different purpose. He used his identification card to enter the main lab. It was a clean, bright room with white tables and many tools. There were cabinets full of samples from 100 different worlds. The air was filtered and still. He went directly to a locked cold storage unit. This was where he kept his most precious samples from Earth. He pressed his hand to the scanner. The door opened with a faint puff of cold air. Inside, in neat rows, were small vials of soil, seeds, and plant tissues. His eyes found what he was looking for, a small clipping of root from a Terran oak tree, and a vial of dark, rich soil from an earth forest. He took them to his work table. His movements were slow and precise. He set the root clipping and the soil vial down. Then he gathered other tools, a glass dish, a microscope, a machine that could separate and combine tiny amounts of chemicals, small, clean droppers. First, he prepared the enzyme from the oak root. He used a sharp tool to carefully crush a piece of the root. He added a few drops of pure water. He filtered the liquid into a clean vial. This liquid contained the enzyme. It was clear and looked like water. It was harmless. Next, he needed the bacteria from the soil. He took a tiny speck of the dark earth soil. He placed it in a nutrient solution in the glass dish. He put the dish under a small heater. The warmth would make the bacteria grow quickly. He waited. He did not pace. He simply stood and watched the dish. His patience was endless. After an hour, the solution in the dish became slightly cloudy. The bacteria had multiplied. He used a dropper to take a small amount of this cloudy liquid. He put a single drop under the microscope. He looked through the eyepiece. He saw them. Millions of tiny rod-shaped bacteria swimming in the liquid. They were common. They were everywhere on Earth. They were vital for healthy soil. And they were the second part of his key. Now came the final step. The combination. He took a new empty vial. He used one dropper to add 5 drops of the clear enzyme liquid. He used a different clean dropper to add 1 drop of the cloudy bacteria liquid. He sealed the vial and shook it gently. He looked at the mixture. It still looked like slightly cloudy water. There was no smoke, no strange color, nothing to show what it could do. He needed to test it. He needed a sample of the Cathar bloodvine. This was more difficult. The Cathar were very protective of their world's biology. They did not like to share. But the Omniplex was a place of science. There was a small sample in the station's main bioarchive, used for research. Jin went to the archive. It was a large circular room with thousands of small drawers. He found the one labeled Cathara flora dominant species. He requested a single leaf of the blood vine. The archive system asked for his authorization. He used his scientific access codes. The system whirred. A small drawer opened. Inside, on a piece of sterile material, was a single copper-colored leaf. It was tough and leathery. It looked strong. He took it back to his lab. He placed the Cathar leaf in a clean glass dish. It sat there looking ordinary. He picked up the vial he had made, the mixture of enzyme and bacteria. He uncapped it. He used a dropper to take up a small amount. He held the dropper over the leaf. He paused for only a second. He thought of Mina's face. The swelling, the purple bruises, the cut on her cheek, the pain in her eyes. He squeezed the dropper. A single drop of the cloudy liquid fell onto the center of the copper-colored leaf. For a moment, nothing happened. The drop sat on the leaf's surface. Jin watched, his expression unchanged. Then a change began. A dark spot appeared where the drop had landed. The dark spot spread quickly like a stain. The tough, leathery leaf began to wilt and curl at the edges. It lost its coppery color, turning brown, then black. A faint, unpleasant smell rose from the dish. The leaf was not just dying. It was breaking down. It was dissolving. In less than a minute, the leaf was gone. In its place was a small puddle of black, foul-smelling sludge. Jin looked down at the dish. The test was a success. The key worked. He cleaned the dish. He put away his tools. He placed the small vial of the mixture into his pocket. It felt cool against his leg. He left the laboratory. He walked back to the part of the station where the leaders had their offices. He needed to see Ambassador Lauren again. He also needed to see Commander Val. He entered Lauren's office without knocking. The ambassador was on a communication call, but he ended it quickly when he saw Jin. Lauren looked tired and stressed. "Jin," he said, "I was just dealing with the fallout from the incident. The Cathar are being difficult. They are calling Mina's presence a provocation. Can you believe it?" Jin did not answer that question. He said what he had come to say. "I need you to arrange a meeting. A private one. With you and with Commander Val." Lauren's eyes widened. "What? No, that is a terrible idea. That man is a brute. He should be far away from this station. Why would you want to be in the same room with him?" "I have something to show him," Jin said. His voice was still quiet, but it now had a new weight to it. "Something he needs to see." "See what?" Lauren asked, his frustration growing. "Jin, please. Go be with your wife. Let the diplomats handle this. We will make the Cathar pay a price for what they did. We will put sanctions on their trade." "Sanctions are just words," Jin said. "He does not understand words. He only understands strength. I am going to show him strength." Lauren shook his head. "What does that mean? Are you going to fight him?" "He will kill you, Jin. He is twice your size." "I am not going to fight him," Jin said. "I am going to educate him." Lauren saw the look in Jin's eyes. It was the same look from before, but even stronger. A deep, unshakable certainty. Lauren felt a cold chill. This quiet botanist scared him more than the loud Cathar commander ever had. "How can I arrange this?" Lauren said, throwing his hands up. "He is being expelled. He will not come to a meeting just because I ask. Tell him, Jin said, that a human wishes to formally concede. Tell him I wish to admit the weakness of humanity in person, to him and to you. He will come. His pride will make him come. Lauren stared at Jin. He knew it was true. Val's pride was his greatest weakness. The chance to have a human bow before him to admit defeat would be too tempting to resist. This feels very dangerous, Jin, Lauren said softly. It is, Jin replied, but not for me. Lauren was silent for a long time. He looked at the man standing before him. He thought about the broken rules, the violence, the shame. He finally nodded. I will do it. I will contact his ship. I will tell him what you said. Good, Jin said. Schedule it for 1 hour from now. In the secure observation lab. The one with the atmospheric divider. Then Jin turned and left. He had one more place to go before the meeting. He walked back to the medical bay. Mina was resting. The swelling on her face had gone down a little. She was awake, reading from a small screen. She looked up when he entered. She saw the look on his face. The emptiness was gone. It was replaced by a focused intensity. You have a plan, she said. It was not a question. Yes, he said. Will it work? Yes, she looked at him for a long moment. She trusted him. She trusted his mind. She knew he was not a violent man. But she also knew he was a man who would protect what was his. And she was his. Be careful, she said. He came to her side and kissed her forehead, gently avoiding her injuries. I am always careful, he said. Then he stood up. He looked at her one more time as if memorizing her face. He turned and walked out of the room. He walked towards. The secure observation lab was a quiet, cold room. It was used for studying dangerous materials. A thick, clear wall made of strong plastic divided the room in two. On one side was a normal laboratory space. On the other side was a sealed containment area. The air in the containment area was separate. Nothing could pass through the divider. Jin stood on the laboratory side. He had placed two things on a table there. One was a small pot containing a healthy green Terran oak sapling. Its leaves were a vibrant green. It looked peaceful and ordinary. Next to it was a small sealed glass dish. Inside the dish was a living piece of the Cathar blood vine. It was a tough copper-colored stem with a few leaves. It looked strong and alien. He stood very still, his hands behind his back. He waited. The door to the lab hissed open. Ambassador Lauren walked in first. He looked nervous. His eyes moved from Jin to the plants on the table and back again. He did not understand what was happening. Behind him came Commander Val. The large Cathar filled the doorway. He looked around the room with a sneer. His yellow eyes were full of contempt. He saw Jin standing there and his sneer grew wider. So, Val hissed, his voice loud in the quiet room. The weak human has called for me. You wish to concede? You wish to admit that your species is soft and worthless? He walked closer, his heavy steps echoing. He stopped on the other side of the clear divider, looking at Jin through the thick plastic. Jin did not look at Lauren. He kept his eyes on Commander Val. His face showed no anger, no fear. It was like a calm, still pool of water. You struck my wife, Jin said. His voice was not loud, but it was clear and sharp in the silent room. Val laughed, a harsh, grating sound. I did. I reminded her of her place. And now I am here to remind you. So speak your concession. Bow your head, human. I am not here to bow, Jin said. Lauren shifted his weight uncomfortably. Jin, please, what is this about? Jin ignored him. He continued to look at Val. You believe strength is only this. He gestured to Val's large, scaled body. You believe that because you are physically strong, you are powerful. You believe that because we value words and life, we are weak. This was your error. Val slammed a fist against the clear divider. The wall shook, but it did not break. Do not lecture me, creature. Your words are nothing. You are wrong, Jin said, his voice still calm. Our words, our knowledge, our patience, these are also strength, a different kind of strength, a kind you do not understand. And because you do not understand it, you cannot defend against it. He picked up the glass dish with the Cathar blood vine. He held it up so Val could see it clearly. You know this plant, Jin said. It is the blood vine of your homeworld. It is tough. It covers your planet. Its roots hold your soil together. It helps you breathe. You think it is unbreakable. You are proud of it as you are proud of yourselves. Val stared at the vine. It is strong like the Cathar. It cannot be defeated. Unlike you, Jin gave a small, cold smile. It was the first emotion he had shown. You are wrong. He walked to a small airlock built into the divider. It was a safe way to pass items into the containment area. He placed the glass dish inside the airlock, closed the inner door, and pressed a button. There was a hiss of air. The outer door on the containment side opened. Val watched, his eyes narrowed in confusion. What is this game? Jin then picked up the small oak tree in its pot. This is a tree from my world. An oak, it is also strong, but its strength is quiet. It does not need to show off. He placed the oak tree on the table. He did not put it in the containment area. He left it on his side of the divider. Then, from his pocket, he took out the small vial. The one he had made in his lab. The liquid inside looked like slightly cloudy water. You struck my wife, Jin said again, his eyes locked on Val. You thought it was a small thing. You thought there would be no real consequence. You thought we would just talk and complain. You were wrong. He held up the vial. This is the consequence. He uncorked the vial. He used a dropper to take up a small amount of the liquid. He walked back to the airlock. He placed the open vial inside. He sent it through to the containment area. Val watched, now completely silent. His smugness was fading, replaced by a growing, uneasy curiosity. Jin pointed to the vial now sitting in the containment area. Inside that vial is a combination. A simple combination. One part is from this oak tree. He pointed to the small sapling. The other part is from the soil of Earth. Alone, they are harmless. Together, they become a key. A key that fits a lock in the very heart of your world's strength. He looked straight at Commander Val. You see, Commander? True strength is not about who can hit the hardest. It is about who understands the world the best. You never bothered to understand us. But I have taken the time to understand you. Jin pressed a button on a control panel on his side of the room. A small robotic arm unfolded from the ceiling inside the containment area. It was designed to handle dangerous samples. Watch, Jin said. His voice was soft, but it filled the room. Watch what happens when a quiet man who loves growing things decides to stop growing. The robotic arm picked up the vial. It moved over the glass dish containing the piece of Cathar blood vine. It tipped the vial. A single drop of the cloudy liquid fell onto the tough, copper-colored vine. For a second, nothing happened. Val let out a dismissive snort. Your consequence is a drop of water? Then it began. A dark spot appeared on the vine where the drop had landed. The spot spread fast like a fire across dry paper. The tough, leathery stem began to wilt and sag. It made a soft, sizzling sound. The vibrant copper color turned to a sickly brown, then to black. The vine was not just dying. It was unraveling. It was breaking apart at a speed that was unnatural. The leaves shriveled into dust. The strong stem collapsed into a puddle of thick, black ooze. The unpleasant, acidic smell filled the containment area, so strong that Val and Lauren could almost smell it through the divider. In less than 30 seconds, the piece of blood vine was gone. Completely gone. Only a smear of black sludge remained in the glass dish. The room was utterly silent. Commander Val was frozen. His mouth was slightly open. His yellow eyes were wide, fixed on the black sludge. He had seen his world's symbol of strength. A plant that could survive the harshest conditions be utterly destroyed by a single drop of liquid. It was impossible. It was witchcraft. Jin's voice broke the silence. It was still quiet, but now it sounded like the coldest wind in space. That is the consequence, Commander. 1 drop for 1 drop of my wife's blood. Imagine a rain of it, falling on the fields of Cathara, falling on the vines that hold your world together. How long would your strong world last? A day, an hour? Val finally looked up from the dish. He looked at Jin. The contempt was gone. The pride was gone. For the first time, there was fear in his eyes. Real, deep, terrifying fear. This was not a threat against his ship or his soldiers. This was a threat against his home, his world. The very air he breathed. You are a monster, Val whispered, his voice shaking. No, Jin said. I am a botanist. I am a husband. You made the error of thinking those things were weak. Now you know the truth. Leave this station. Tell your leaders what you saw here. Tell them that the next time one of you raises a hand to a human, we will not send soldiers. We will send a quiet man with a vial, and we will watch your world turn to dust. He turned his back on Commander Val. He looked at Ambassador Lauren. Lauren was pale. He was staring at the black sludge, his mind unable to fully process what he had just witnessed. "The meeting is over," Jin said. He picked up his small oak tree. He walked out of the lab, leaving the two powerful men alone with the proof of his terrible quiet strength. The silence in the lab was heavier than any metal. Ambassador Lauren could only hear the pounding of his own heart. He looked at the black smear in the glass dish. Then he looked at Commander Val. The Cathar commander was not moving. He stood like a statue, his eyes still fixed on the place where the vine had been. His strong, scaled hands were clenched into tight fists, but they were shaking. The anger was gone. The pride was gone. All that was left was a hollow, cold fear. He had seen the impossible. He had seen the foundation of his world shown to be as fragile as glass. Without a word, Val turned. He did not look at Lauren. He walked to the door. His steps were not the loud, confident steps of a conqueror. They were the slow, heavy steps of a broken man. The door hissed shut behind him. Lauren was left alone. He slowly walked to the clear divider. He stared at the black sludge. His mind was racing. Jin had not started a war. He had done something much bigger. He had ended the idea of war with the Cathar before it could even begin. He had shown them a kind of power they could not fight with ships or guns. On the main deck of the Cathar warship, the crew was preparing to leave. They were angry about their expulsion. They grumbled about the weak humans and their useless rules. Then they saw their commander walk in. The grumbling stopped. Commander Val walked to the center of the deck. Every yellow eye was on him. He stood straight, but his usual power was gone. He looked like a different person. "We are leaving the Omniplex," he said. His voice was rough, but it lacked its usual force. A junior officer stepped forward. "Commander, shall we set a course for the border? We can show them what happens when they insult the Cathar." Val turned his head slowly. He looked at the young officer. "No," he said. The word was simple and final. The crew looked confused. Val took a deep breath. It was hard for him to say the next words. "We will send a message to the High Command on Cathara. We will tell them. The trade agreement with the Galactic Concordance is accepted. All their terms." A wave of shock went through the room. The officers stared at him. This was surrender. This was shame. "Commander," another officer protested. "We cannot." "It is weakness." Val's head snapped up. For a second, the old fire returned to his eyes. "You think you know weakness?" he snarled. He pointed a shaking finger toward the station, now visible through the main window. "There is a human in there, a quiet man who works with plants. He does not carry a weapon. He does not shout, but he holds a power that can turn our homeworld into a dead rock. He can make the very air poison. He can make the ground turn to dust under our feet. That is not weakness. That is a strength we cannot fight. We thought they were prey. We were wrong. We are the ones who are vulnerable." The crew was silent. They had never heard their commander speak like this. They had never seen fear on his face. The story of the human and his vial began to spread through the ship in quiet, frightened whispers. Later that day, a formal meeting was held in the main chamber of the Omniplex. The room was full. Every species of the Galactic Concordance was there. The humans were there too. Mina was there, her face still marked with bruises, but she stood tall. Ambassador Lauren stood at the front. Next to him stood Commander Val. The Cathar commander looked out at the crowd. He saw Mina, he saw the evidence of his action on her face. He felt a shame he had never known. "People of the Concordance," Lauren began, his voice official. "We are here to resolve the recent incident." Before Lauren could continue, Commander Val stepped forward. He cleared his throat. The sound was awkward. "I speak for the Cathar Imperium," Val said. His voice was low, but everyone could hear him. The actions taken against the human diplomat Mina were an error. He forced himself to look at her. It was a deep error. I offer a formal apology. To her, to the human people. It will not happen again. He then turned back to the crowd. The Cathar Imperium agrees to the trade agreement as proposed by the Galactic Concordance. We accept all terms. A soft murmur of surprise went through the room. The Cathar never apologized. The Cathar never accepted terms without a fight. They all looked at the bruised human woman and the quiet man standing beside her. They knew something had happened. Something had changed the Cathar completely. They did not know what, but they knew it was because of the humans. The meeting ended quickly after that. The Cathar delegation left immediately for their ship. The tension in the station was gone. A great danger had passed. In their quiet room on the station, Jin and Mina stood together by the large window. The stars outside were sharp and bright. The galaxy was vast and full of life. Mina leaned her head gently against Jin's shoulder. He put his arm around her, holding her carefully. "It's over," she said softly. "Yes," he said. She looked up at his face. "What you did? What was in that vial?" "A key," he said simply. "A key to a lock they did not know they had. Will you ever use it again?" she asked. He looked out at the endless stars. "I hope not. Its purpose was to be seen, not to be used. Now they know. That is enough." He looked down at his hands. They were the hands of a botanist. They were made for gentle work, for helping things grow. Today they had done a violent thing, but they had done it to prevent a greater violence. He would now go back to his plants. He would go back to his quiet life with his wife. The galaxy had learned a new lesson that day. It learned that you should never judge strength by how loud it is. It learned that the most dangerous enemy is not the one who shouts his threats, but the one who speaks in a whisper and can unmake your world. And everyone, from the highest ambassador to the lowest soldier, now knew why it was a fundamental, terrible error to ever strike a human woman. For you never know if the quiet man she loves holds the secret to your survival in his hands, and the power to take it all away.